Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. All of our ongoing coverage brought to you by our friends at Strategic Factory. I'm drinking out of the Carolina Blue Koozie. Keith's going to join us later on in the week. If you need promotional gear, cups, hats, printed materials, or a strategy, Strategic Factory can strategize for you. This guy has always had a strategy for life after football. He was one of the smart guys hanging out in the ACC with the Who's, and is a Super Bowl champion and a friend of ours from his days as a Baltimore Raven. He's much taller in person. We welcome Chris Canty and Chris Canty 99 out on Twitter. You've seen him out on Fox Sports 1 as well. What's going on, my brother? Are you still tall?
Yeah, man. It's good to hear your voice, man. I'm glad you're having me on the show.
Well, I'm glad to track you down, and I have so many old football friends, and throughout the course of the year, I'll track them down at various points and stuff, but I am fascinated to have you on right here, right now, to argue the Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco debate that we're all having here, and even RG3, throw him in as well, because he ran around a little bit Sunday in Atlanta. What do you make of these offenses? And you spent, 2 decades of your life sitting in practice rooms and film rooms trying to figure out how to stop strong-arm quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger quarterbacks, Tom Brady's. But catching speed, this is a whole new thing, right, Chris?
No, it's definitely a new thing. And the one thing that I will say about the Ravens with Lamar Jackson at the helm, it's an offense that's committed to running the football. I think it's created a different dynamic with that team. They focused on running the football with Edwards and with Jackson and the whole host of running backs back there. And I think that's complementary to the defensive aspect of this team and, of course, the third phase, special teams. I think it's all working in concert now because you're able to control the football more. You're able to possess the football more, and that's because of the run game and now having this attitude and this extra physicality because that's what your offense is oriented with your new young quarterback.
You know, when I think about the nerds in baseball and the nerds in football breaking all of this down, it really is a game of down and distance, right? Like, down and distance dictates everything both coordinators are going to do, every scheme, every idea, every strategy is what is the down and distance. And when you can make 1st and 10, 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4 every time, and you've got a guy that can take off and run for 2 or 3 or 4 yards seemingly a lot easier than, let's say, Joe Flacco or Matt Ryan can, or any of the old school quarterbacks, or the way this game has been played, and there to pass the football, the rules are set up for offenses to pass the football. This is a whole different wrinkle for a big guy like you on the edge trying to chase around a 4'2", 22-year-old football player, one play at a time, 2 and 3 and 4 yards at a time. I think the down and distance is what is the part that I didn't understand a month ago, Chris, really.
Nestor, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. And the thing about having a running quarterback is that you create an extra running lane because you do have to respect the quarterback's ability to keep the football every single time. So it makes it a little bit tougher on that backside defender, and I think that creates natural cutback lanes for the running backs when Lamar Jackson does hand it off. But obviously, there's always the threat of him being able to keep the ball, and we've seen how dynamic he is as a runner. Now, I think eventually he'll have to evolve into a quarterback that can consistently win from the pocket, but he's getting the on-the-job training. And then, of course, when you consider the defense that the Ravens have, I think, again, it all works in concert, and that's why you've had the results of him being 3-0 in his first 3 starts.
Chris Canty, 99 is the way to follow my pal. He's up in New York doing the Fox Sports 1 thing. I'm sure still running around with the G-Men, as well as at Chris Canty 99, and doing good work at his foundation, which is also at chriscantyfoundation.org. I got to meet Chris here a number of years ago through my work with my wife, and you were here when she was surviving and bald. By the way, her hair now is getting up on 16, 18 inches, curly.
Hey.
It's come back like red. I'll text you a picture of her screaming and yelling at Chucky up at the Ravens game last week when the Raiders were in here. I'm dying to hear your thoughts from a defensive room standpoint. And Chris, I've watched this for 23 years here as a Raven fan, where under Brian Billick, even when Anthony Wright was the quarterback, and even when Stoney Case and some guys that had some wheels around here, even McNair at the end. It was always about in the pocket, hit the tight end, grind the ball, get the running game going that sets up the passing game. Send Torrey Smith long. Let's get a quarterback that can throw it like Kyle Bowler or like Joe Flacco can throw it 60 yards. This is weird to me in so many ways, but the first day I tweeted something, and I'm going to bring this up with everybody because I don't think it makes me a genius, and I'm still trying to figure out what I tweeted. But when I watched it the first time, I said, the defense doesn't know what the offense is going to do because Marty Morningwig doesn't even know what the offense is going to do. Lamar Jackson doesn't even know what he's going to do. He knows what his reads and what his options are when he gets up there. But I tweeted, the defense doesn't know what we're doing because we don't know what we're doing. John Harbaugh doesn't know what's going to happen with the ball until it happens. And that's so different than so many of these offenses where every week, this is where you're going, Joe. This is first read, this is second read, this is third read. This is where you eat it, this is where you dirt it, this is where you get out of the pocket. And it's much more orchestrated. This thing feels very street to me, Chris, on every single play, and it's exciting. It's a roller coaster until he throws the ball across his body across the field and the ball goes back for a pick six or the ball winds up on the carpet because it is very much a high wire act. There's high stakes, high risk, high reward, this offense for me.
No, it is. And I think so much of what you do from an X's and O's standpoint is based on Lamar Jackson's learning curve and how much he can digest. You have to make sure that you give him enough where your offense can have, the variety that's required in order to challenge NFL defenses, but it can't be too much to the point where he can't play fast because he's trying to analyze everything. So I think that this is one of those things where Lamar Jackson, as he continues to get more experience, he'll get more comfortable, he'll learn, he'll be able to improve as a passer. But right now you're just asking him to be a playmaker at the quarterback position and take care of the football. I think that's the biggest thing. When I looked at their Week 13 game against the Atlanta Falcons, I liked some of the things that he did in terms of being able to create big plays, but he's got to take care of the football. Ball security is a premium, especially at the quarterback position. So I think that's one of the areas that he needs to improve on. But again, I come back to, his strength and his skill set and what that does for your offense, being a run-oriented outfit, being able to control time of possession. That's important when you consider how this Ravens defense has played all season. This team was always going to be a team that was led by defense in 2018, and I think Lamar Jackson plays to that strength because your offense is able to sustain drives, and when you can hold the ball to a 2-to-1 ratio against a high-flying offense like the Atlanta Falcons, I think you help your defense. You put them in a good position, and it's complementary, and ultimately it results in your team having a really good chance to win football games.
Chris Canty is our guest. He's Chris Canty99 out on Twitter and, of course, at Fox Sports 1. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Charles Nissenhoff & Son. Since 1923, true love comes in all shapes and sizes, and there's something for everyone's budget at Charles Nissenhoff. Let's grow old together, and you can find them right off 695 at Perring Parkway. Also, brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing, the sponsor of our community and charity series. It will be 100 years next month for Cole Roofing. Don't let it goof on your roof, and if you have a community or charity cause, as Chris Canty always does, throw me an email, nasty@WNST.net. I would love to feature you as part of what I do here each and every Thursday when I can. Cole Roofing's community and charity series here at WNST.net. Chris, I was sitting down in the media room after the game in Atlanta on Sunday, and all the Baltimore reporters came down, about 7 or 8 of us waiting for Harbaugh to come out. We had a little extra time. And we were kind of talking amongst ourselves, like, what was time of possession? How many yards? What were the first down? What third downs? All those kind of team stats. And I busted it out on my phone, and I started reading it off to everyone. And it's almost sort of otherworldly, right, when you consider that they only touched the ball 6 minutes in the second half, that Matt Ryan was held to 97 yards, 131 yards of total offense in Atlanta at home. You just don't see it ever, and it's kind of hard to digest what's happened to the Falcons on the other end of this, as well as what's happened to the Green Bay Packers, where a healthy Rodgers is going to play a healthy Matt Ryan. Green Bay didn't even have a coach this week. The league is very, very topsy-turvy right now. There'll be a lot of coaching changes, a lot of philosophical changes, I think, in the sport because of what the Lamar Jacksons are bringing right now.
Well, I think so much of the game has become space-oriented. It's about being able to stretch defenses not only vertically, with being able to push the ball down the field, but actually horizontally as well, making sure you use the width of the field and then taking advantage of the new rules that were implemented for player safety. It makes it easier for offenses to attack the middle of defenses. And when you can attack the middle of the field where there's no threat of physicality just based on how the rules are enforced, then I think it creates a lot more space for offenses to operate, and that's why you're seeing offenses like the Los Angeles Rams and like the Kansas City Chiefs and like the New Orleans Saints. And I think that's going to continue to trend that way. And you see that offensive coordinators, young offensive minds are now what's in demand just because with today's NFL, you have to be able to match points with opposing teams. So I think you're seeing that dynamic at play. But what makes what Lamar Jackson brings to the table so different from some of those other quarterbacks that are out there is that your offense has been more of a run-oriented offense. And so you're able to win games with a conventional style of play, meaning that you're controlling time of possession, which limits the opposing offense's opportunities. And it's like the old adage goes, they can't score points if they're not on the field. And that's exactly what Lamar Jackson enables your offense to do. He enables your offense to sustain drives and keep the opposing offense off the field. And when they do get on your field, the defense has been really good about being able to be good in situations, be good on third downs, and get off the field. And so, like I said, I think it all works in concert for John Harbaugh. I think it's complementary football at its best. And those are things that always play well in the month of December and on into the postseason.
Oh, and we're off to Kansas City, and not just for the barbecue this week, pal, but yeah, I'm doing the math here. 54 and 33 is 87. They've given up 87 points the last 2 weeks to Kansas City Chiefs, and yet we're like, oh my God, we don't want to go there and play that. And the Kareem Hunt thing, which I know has been big on your circuit, and everybody's talking about that, and league jurisprudence and videotape, and you were here during the Ray Rice era and all that. Not a good week in Kansas City, and probably not a bad week for this defense, this team, this offense to be going out to Kansas City and playing as a double-digit dog this week.
No, I think there was clearly an impact on the Kansas City Chiefs from missing Kareem Hunt. They didn't necessarily have the balance that they're accustomed to, even though Spencer Ware did play well. I look at this team and I say the Baltimore Ravens are built to give a team like the Kansas City Chiefs trouble just because they're able to run the football. And you can take advantage of a defense that's not a great defense. I think they do have a couple of playmakers that you have to look out for, but ultimately you can use your formula for success under your new quarterback in Lamar Jackson. That will be able to translate. It should translate to success on the road in Arrowhead Stadium. So I think it's a great matchup. It's a great opportunity for the Ravens. I think this thing is all right there in front of them, seeing as how the Pittsburgh Steelers stumbled at home in Week 13 against the Chargers. You know, being a game and a half out of first place in that division, I mean, you're in pretty good position right now with 4 games to play. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But I like where the Baltimore Ravens are right now.
Chris, does it piss you off a little bit when a player slugs a girl, kicks a girl, the video comes out, the league's got its head in the sand? I mean, we all sit around here and talk about this. Did they learn anything from the Ray Rice thing? That when you kick a girl in the head on video and it's going to come out and TMZ is going to get a hold of it, it's going to be a lot worse later than it is in the beginning. And it's just not a good look for the league right now, especially on the other side of what the Redskins did. And I know you've had integrity about this, and you wear your, that shield as pride of something you stood for. It's never good when this stuff happens, man.
No, it's not good when these things happen. Unfortunately, this is a societal issue that the NFL has had to deal with in a very public way and not necessarily handle the right way when these incidents do occur. I do believe that once the video surfaced, the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs took the appropriate action. I think that Kareem Hunt will be disciplined by the league office once the investigation concludes. But ultimately, I think Kareem Hunt will be given a second chance once he served his punishment. He's just that talented, and of course, he's a young player. I think he'll have another opportunity in this league. But when I look at the rate of occurrence with domestic violence and all the things that we've seen in the NFL since the Ray Rice incident, it's clear to me that this is an issue that we have to be more proactive about trying to implement measures to prevent future occurrences. I understand all of the outrage, but we have to direct it towards something that can actually make an impact and change the rate of occurrence for domestic violence in our society. I think we have to use these types of incidents to educate people so they don't happen in the future.
Chris, always appreciated your time. Chris Canty, 99. Last thing for you, brother. Can the Ravens go back to Joe Flacco at any point here? I have said, and I believe this, and you know I'm a Joe guy, right? I mean, from way back, I'm a Joe guy. I think Joe will get back out on the field at some point in the next month. I think he'll do positive things. And I think the way they dreamed this thing up back in April when they drafted Lamar Jackson was to have this arsenal by now where they have several quarterbacks, different ways they can go, different looks that confuse defenses. But the notion that Joe Flacco's thrown his last pass for the Ravens, I don't believe that at this point with a quarter of the season still out there in front of us.
Well, I will say this. It'll be awfully difficult to take Lamar Jackson out of his role as the starting quarterback just because your team has had success and it feels like your team has responded. I mean, you're being able to score in all three phases of football. That defense has been lights out. And again, I think what you're doing offensively plays to the strength of your team. It just makes a whole lot of sense to keep with a hot hand in Lamar Jackson. I understand what Joe Flacco brings to the table. And, you know, there is no substitute for experience, especially when football begins to change around this time in the NFL. But I think when Ozzie decided to draft Lamar Jackson this past April, they envisioned him at some point being able to take over for Joe Flacco. I just didn't realize that it was going to be at the juncture in the season where it occurred. But I think that now that he's playing and your team is winning, I don't know how you can necessarily justify going back.
Give me your elevator speech on the things you're doing to make the world a better place, because I know you're always into something, Chris Canty.
Well, yeah, I'm always into something. As a matter of fact, right now I'm on my way to a charity event to benefit muscular dystrophy awareness, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm always working with the Chris Canty Foundation in the New York area. Right now we have our Reading Buddies programs in our two partner elementary schools in the South Bronx, and so we're always trying to work with the kids with literacy and then creating opportunities for them to be exposed to different things and different career paths. So always something that I prioritize and something that I enjoy to do, which is working with the kids and being able to help them shape their futures.
Yeah, I was going to call you last week and give you trouble ahead of the Maryland-Virginia basketball game. I'm glad I didn't, so I'm just going to leave that alone.
That was a good idea. That Virginia team is pretty good.
They're pretty good. Well, good. I didn't give you trouble.
I don't foresee any more issues with University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Just putting it out there.
I didn't even call and give you a hard time, but I did give a couple of my Facebook friends who are Cavalier. I don't think of you as a Virginia Cavalier. I think of you as a Raven. Isn't that nice of me?
Well, coming from you, I take it as a compliment.
Chris Canty, always a pleasure. Appreciate you answering the phone when I call, man. We'll see you soon, brother, up there in New York, all right?
All right.
There he goes. Chris Canty, 99, out on Twitter, and the ChrisCantyFoundation.org. You can find him. As good a dude as there is, and he's much taller in person. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I am on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. You can always find us out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. That's 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. The kids call it podcasting. Terps, baseball, winter meetings, and getting ready for the Kansas City Chiefs this week and getting motivated for myself. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.